Sometimes you gotta go get yourself a baseball card or a basketball jersey or a boat. Where would you go for that? Where would you go? There's only one place. His name is Nanu. He is the face you need to see to get your place in line for a LeBron James rookie card. The name of the place is Mammoth Cards. Go to 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 Mammoth Cards.
A much anticipated scenario show. So many different things can happen this year. Here is our whiteboard. Here's our standings. Circle of Trust stands alone in first place. There's their record. These are the teams that they swept. They swept Golani, the Jungle, and the Colt 45s, and they got swept by the Warriors. You need to know all this for tiebreak scenarios. And then this is your run differential. They've scored 90, which is a lot, and they've given up only 58, which is a little. That's why they're in first place, and they have a 32 plus 32 run differential, which is the best in the whole league. Now, key things that you have to know is these brackets here are who plays who. That's this week's Week 7 matchups. And another key thing that we should all remember is that only 5 teams get into the playoffs, not 6. Now this should be the biggest defense of the 5-team format, because nobody could tell me, not even one of the players on the Jungle can tell me that they deserve a chance to be alive right now and a chance to get to the postseason. That's ridiculous. We had a 3-9 team called Slap in the Base. Was it Slap in the Base? We had a 3-9 team versus a 5-7 team on the last week. We had this matchup once before on the last week in the 6-team format, and this team swept that team. It was Slap in the Base, who was 3-9, and they swept Los Caballos, who was 5-7. Both teams got to 5-9. They played a play-in game, and that's when Lee Zakaria got the big hit to score Jody LeBeau's, and Los Caballos ended up getting into the playoffs. That team should not be alive. This team should not be alive. We should only have 5 teams in the playoffs, because look at this Jungle. 3-9, no sweeps, got swept 3 times. They've only scored 60 runs. That's the fewest. And look how many runs they've given up. I mean, that's the most. Minus 54 run differential. That's impossible. That's where we only played 6 weeks. They're getting outscored by 9 runs a week in, week out, week in, week out. So no one can tell me that we should be going 6 teams, and a team like the Jungle could get it together 1 week against the Colt 45s and be alive in any scenario. Okay, let's start doing some of the fun scenarios. Let's see what we can do. Let's do a fun one where we have a lot of teams that are 8-6. Let's say Never Again, Nabi, TI, Uri Adler Insurance sweeps Circle of Trust. In that case, you have a Circle of Trust team that's now 8-6, and a Never Again team that's also 8-6. And you would have Never Again would have the sweep over. You would have Never Again sweep over Circle. So you put in here. You add Circle, and Circle of Trust would have gotten swept by Nabi and Never Again. Ron, what's up, buddy?
What's up?
How are you?
Good.
Come say hello to the league. My son Ronnie home from school. How was school today?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, we're seeing some tiebreak scenarios. Love you. Okay, now we have Cool Runnings playing the Rays. Let's say they split. If they split, the Rays go to 8-6, and Cool Runnings goes to 8-6, which is very possible because they swept the Jungle and then they split the rest of their weeks. So they're also 8-6. Then you have the Warriors versus the Golani Brigade. Let's say they split. You have the Warriors at 8-6, and Golani would would, whatever, go to 6 and 8. Okay? In this scenario, you have 5 teams that are 8 and 6. Even if the Colt 45 sweep the jungle, like everyone else seems to be doing, and go to 7 and 7, and the jungle falls to 3 and 11, even if that were to happen, you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams all tied at 8 and 6. Now what do? So these 3 teams would be eliminated, that's easy. Who plays in the 4-5 game, etc. You need to do tie-break scenarios and pull out one at a time. This is how we do it. Come over here, Ron. Right here next to me, good. So we need to do these 5 teams in a tie-break scenario. How do they fare? What's the head-to-head against each other? So, never again, if they sweep Circle, would be 2-0 against Circle, and then Golani and Colt 45 don't play in here, so they're +2 in these. That means they split 3 of the matchups, and they would have swept another one, so that's 5 and 3 against those 8 teams. So never again would be 5 and 3 in this tiebreak. The Rays, again, they only swept the teams that are not in play here, so that works against the Rays in this case, and they got swept against the Warriors. So they're down a sweep. They would be 3 and 5 in this head-to-head scenario. You then have the Warriors. Look at the Warriors sweeps. They have 2 sweeps against teams in this tiebreak. So that's +4, and then they swept the other 2, so they would be 6 and 2 in this tiebreak scenario. Cool Runnings, right in the middle, 4 and 4, they're easy. And then Circle of Trust, they swept Golani, they swept the Jungle, they swept the Colt 45s. None of those are in play. Those are bad sweeps. Bad sweeps. All sweeps are good, but for this scenario, it's not good. And they would have gotten swept if they lose 2 this week by the Warriors and never again. So they're a -4. They go to 2 and 6 in this scenario. So right now they're in first, but it's not looking good. So what do? You declare the Warriors as the 1. They're the 1. Now what do? You don't just say, oh, they're the 2. That's not the way it works. You redo it without the Warriors involved. You redo it. So you take the Warriors out. The Warriors coming out of the Circle of Trust makes them 2 and 4. The Warriors coming out of Cool Runnings, 3 and 3. The Warriors coming out of the Rays is now going to help the Rays because that's a sweep for them. You make them 3 and 3. And the Warriors removing themselves from Never Again doesn't do much for Never Again, 4 and 2. So now you're looking at 2 and 4, 3 and 3, 3 and 3, 4 and 2. Never Again becomes the 2 seed in this scenario. Now you take out Never Again, okay? So Never Again is out and the Warriors are out. We're gonna keep going. So now it's a tiebreak between the Rays, Cool Runnings, and Circle of Trust. Circle of Trust against Cool Runnings, they split, and against the Rays, they split. So taking away Never Again obviously helped them. They go to 2 and 2. Cool Runnings, 2 and 2. And then the Rays would be against Circle of Trust, they split, and against Cool Runnings, they split. The Rays would be 2 and 2. This is huge because one of these teams is getting the bye and the other 2 teams are facing each other. Because head-to-head is all even, you go to run differential. Now look at this. The Rays with a winning record have a small negative run differential. That's rare. You don't see that often, that you win more games but you gave up more. So I guess they got blown out a couple of times and they won a couple of close games. Sign of a good team that they got blown out, that they won the close games, but gonna hurt them in this scenario because once you do run differential, bam, nobody is gonna touch Circle of Trust. Now you have to remember, this could change. If Cool Runnings wins, remember Circle of Trust is gonna lose 2 games to start the scenario, so their run differential automatically goes down, and if Cool Runnings wins by a lot, maybe they catch up in run differential and they jump Circle. But if you assume the run differential is the same, in this case, Circle of Trust becomes the 3. And then you have a play-in game between, not a play-in game, the 4-5 series between the team that was in first place almost all season long, which is the Rays, and Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings would be the 4, and the Rays would be the 5. They would play 2 out of 3 games. You'd have, again, the 1 seed being the Warriors all of a sudden, the 2 seed being Never Again, playing against the Circle of Trust in a semifinal matchup. That's awesome. And then a 4-5 matchup between Cool Runnings, that's Dano, and Rays, that's JT. These are all solid teams. I would love to see this scenario. And then Golani Brigade would be out. Despite their big run, they would fall just short. Colt 45 at 7-7 would be eliminated from playoff contention. I don't mind that. That's a 500 team. I mean, it would be rare for a 500 team not to make it, but you didn't win more games than you lost. I mean, you just split, which is everything that they didn't do. They actually swept or got swept each and every week. They would have 3 sweeps, 3 get sweeps, and 1 split, but they didn't win more games than they lost. I don't feel bad for them. They're not one of the top 5 teams out of 8 in this league this year. And you got to remember, if this happens, you have a 3-11 team. That skews everyone's records up. It's like inflation. Everyone gets more wins when a team is taking 11 losses off the board, off the rest of the league. Anyway, so that's this unbelievable scenario of 5, 8, and 6 teams. Thank you.